Greetings. In today's video, we are going to go over 5 crazy things that were said to me when I was new in Germany. Now, if you're new here, I should just let you know that I'm an American who moved to Germany in 2001. Welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, well, welcome back. Thanks. I've missed you. How is the family? Now, the following 5 things I've picked out for this video today, few were said by Germans, a few were said by Americans. But I want to make it loud and clear that none of those are a statement on Americans or Germans in general. But now that I have been here in Germany for so long, these things really stick out to me. I mean, at the time when they happened and things were said to me, I probably thought they were crazy, but felt alone with my thoughts often. But now, after so many years of living in Germany, I can say this stuff was definitely just crazy. Let's get into it. This first incident of something crazy being said to me in regards to my move to Germany actually occurred, I would say it was within my first year of moving to Germany. And I had returned home to Pennsylvania, where I'm from. I recall I was invited to a family dinner of sorts. What it all comes down to is I remember sitting around a table having a nice meal with a bunch of people I love. And I mean, there was the normal curiosity of what's it like over there where you moved so far away. Really ridiculous was a question came up about what kind of cars do y'all drive over there? But luckily I wasn't the only one that thought that was crazy. Like others at the table, Americans who lived in America and didn't move to Germany like me, chimed in real quick with like, have you ever heard of Volkswagen, Porsche, Audi? But the one thing I found crazy was there came this question that went a little something like, do y'all have like surround sound over there? And I was like, can you be a little more specific? And I remember my German husband who was sitting next to me being like, kind of shocked. But this guy was serious. He elaborated for me, and he asked once again if we had things in Germany like surround sound and, big flat wall TVs. He was for real. So after the car question and this question, I just felt it was time to have a few giggles. And I looked at him and I informed him that the small Bavarian village that I had moved to, well, we had in our village one television. It was a pretty decent size, but it was kept at the location in front of the church area, where we have our pagan festivals. And pretty much on Sundays, we all gather there in our quaint little Franconian village and watch television together. And I recall, there were a few seconds of dead silence at the dinner table. I think I heard a piece of silverware drop, and this dude went, really? I gave it a few seconds and I went, no! What the hell, man? Moving on. Second crazy thing I would say I had said to me when I was new to Germany was I was actually warned, told to look out for the Turkish and Russians. The person who said this to me claimed to have good intentions. He, in such a naively Caucasian manner, explained to me, of course, not all of them, but quite a few are involved in illegal activities. This guy was an idiot, a racist idiot, looking back. After being here so long, really pisses me off looking back when I think about that conversation. I mean, I grew up in a place where we were all mixed. Like, I came from a school, kindergarten all the way to high school. I had all different religions and races around me. It was just normal. Different people worship different gods. Different people look different. This dude, he was one of those naive country folks, and he really thought he was giving me, good advice. And I tried debating it with him, but flat out, in time all is revealed. And here I am 20 years later. I've never had a problem with a Turkish person or a Russian person. Nothing that I can, write home about and feel a need to warn somebody new to this country about. In fact, I think it's kind of ironic that if I had to pick a race or a culture that I had the most problems with in my time living here. Ironically, it would be American or German. I had the most problems with those nationalities, if you want to know. If nationality matters. My first 10 years in Germany were spent in the South, living next to an American military base where 10,000 Americans were stationed. A lot of them were really immature asshats who treated women like crap. Glad I don't live there anymore. I'm saying literally, I got in fistfights. American soldiers. Bad behavior. Didn't happen once with Turkish or Russians with me. Also funny when I think about it, actually, twice I believe, twice in my time living here in Germany, I worked with Russian women. I think off the top of my head of two particular Russian women that I worked with, and they were two of the most hardest working females I have ever worked with in my entire life. I like to think I'm a pretty hard worker. They put me to shame. So yeah, that was a crazy thing said to me, not just by that person, but other people in that village that I lived in when I was new to Germany. Bad stuff. Crazy in a bad way, not a good way. Crazy thing number 3 said to me when I was new in Germany goes along the same lines of somebody wanting to warn me and protect me as a naive American here in Germany. I'd gone with a friend from that little village I was living in to visit his uncle, who had lived in the big city of Frankfurt. He was a successful businessman, office in the sky. And I have to say, at the beginning of this visit, I thought this guy and his wife were really nice. Their place they lived in was incredibly impressive, with lovely meals and nice conversations, until something somehow came up about Muslims. Now again, I repeat, I grew up around people of a variety of different religions. For me, it's just a normal fact of the world that different people worship different gods in different ways sometimes. This guy felt the need to tell me a little story about a coworker of his that he was friends with, a Muslim. And I guess based on his experiences with that guy, he wanted to inform me that even though I like to think of myself as an open-minded person who will talk to anybody and try not to judge them based on their background or whatever, he said even though I may like to think that I have these good ideals, they're just not realistic, because he wanted to make it very clear to me, and he said it more than a few times, that even though maybe I may make some Muslim friends, I'll never really be their friend. And they'll never invite me into their home, for example. Like, he used this as an example several times. They'll never invite me into their home. He told me some story about he was on vacation with him and his wife and this dude, this coworker dude, and that this coworker made a statement about this dude's wife. Her shorts were too short. And, you know, he was using this as his power to reinforce to me as to how Muslims were. But I guess what he wasn't listening to was when I told him that I had already had Muslim friends for many years. But again, at this point, I'm new in Germany. In my heart, I knew everything he was saying was wrong, and I debated with him for a few hours over it. Definitely when I left that guy's place, I thought, what a racist. Fast forward only a few years later, I was invited to Tunisia. When I went to Tunisia, I was treated like a queen. I saw beautiful things, learned all about the culture, was even taken to historic places like Carthage. That was by far the most impressive thing I've ever seen with my eyeballs and was allowed to touch. I was shown so many beautiful things and taught so much. Oh yeah, by Muslim people, Muslim friends, who invited me into their home. Not to mention, of course, I have been invited to several Muslim friends' house for dinner. To me, it's pretty clear that this dude was not invited into a Muslim's house, I think more specifically this coworker he seemed to have issues with, because the guy didn't like him. I don't give a shit about the statement about the shorts. That just sounds like a conservative statement. Conservative people, conservative Christians, conservative Muslims, conservative people are everywhere in the world. And they too all worship different types of gods. But it's just like in number 1 of this video, where I was talking about how I was warned about Turkish and Russians by several people in the south of Germany. When I was getting these warnings, like, I would hear things like, you know, sometimes they all go and just live in the same building and don't even bother to learn German. I don't want to break your hearts, but if I heard that there was a building here that a lot of Americans were living in and they weren't soldiers, I might look at an apartment there. I think that's just human nature. You look at where you might feel comfortable, where you can speak your mother tongue, but not even just language. Your inside jokes, sharing your culture with other people. It's a comforting thing, I think, for a lot of folks. And the not speaking the language thing, just like this guy saying Muslims weren't inviting them into their home. If you're running into a lot of different people that don't want to talk to you, don't want to invite you into your home, it might actually say less about them and more about you. I don't want to insult anybody, but the German culture, when you're a stranger, when you're an outsider, it can often feel cold and unfriendly. Let's just say, generally speaking, they're not big on talking to strangers or putting on a show and pretending to be happy when faced with a stranger. Often. But I came to this theory that there may in fact be foreigners here in this country that in certain situations perhaps pretend they don't speak good German simply because based on their experience they just don't want to deal with somebody that's miserable and is going to talk to them like they're a piece of shit. And so this is their way of avoiding the situation. Don't get me wrong, there may be a few that don't speak good German. It's a tricky language. It takes time to learn. There's different reasons for people having issues with learning a language when they're new to a country. I think it's kind of funny that the few times that I've had this said to me, one way or another, the mention of foreigners living here and they don't speak German, my impression quite often, the person who was verbalizing this did not seem like somebody enjoyable to be around and somebody I would enjoy having a conversation with. And I speak German. Come on, people, we need to evolve. We need to stop making assumptions. You have one experience with one person, you don't damn their whole group for it. That's stupid. That guy will never have a magical experience in Tunisia, not like I had. Not with that attitude. Fourth craziest thing I'm going to go over in this video was said to me in the Arbeitsamt. If you're not familiar with the German system here, that's where you go when you end up unemployed for one reason or another. In America, they call it the unemployment office, but you don't get much help there where I'm from. But here in Germany, you have to go there and you register and, they'll pick up in your health care and help you cover your rent and basic food and hopefully get you on a path to get a new job. And they send you job offers. And I'm pretty sure this was one of the first times I went unemployed here in Germany. I had a contract with a German company working in a warehouse on an American Army base. And at some point that contract ended and I found myself in this Arbeitsamt office. First appointment, I went like a nerd, all prepared, looking like I'm ready to get a job. Dressed well, freshened up my resume, got all of my papers together. But it was pretty much just data collecting, this lady just taking my info and on your way info will come per mail. And when the info came per mail, I got these job offers that I'm required to apply for, and they were garbage. They were like sorting fruit, cleaning toilets. And I remember going back to this lady, to this meeting, and being like, you saw my resume. I got many years in sales. I've even worked for, dare I say, famous people? Known names. Why aren't you giving me sales jobs? This lady looked me dead in the eye, and in a nasty tone, informed me in German that nobody will hire me with my accent. Not long after that, I found a job working at a hip-hop shop. And not long after that, Blood on Gang saved my life and made me their merch girl. Pretty sure that lady's still sitting in her miserable office with her miserable attitude in that miserable Arbeitsamt in Franken. I'd like to thank her for her brutal honesty because she prepared me for many years in this country, and I learned that any time I need a job, whether it's just a change of career, I've been fired, or a contract ends, or whatever, I know I have to give my best and a whole lot of energy into finding that new job. And I have been pretty lucky most of the time. I have found some pretty decent and interesting jobs in my time here. No thanks to that office. I don't appreciate her crazy comment that no one would hire me with my accent. I know my accent is thick. I'd like to inform that lady with this thick accent, I have sold hundreds of thousands of euros worth of stuff all over Germany over my years and my time here. I think she's the one that should be sorting fruit and cleaning toilets. And number 5, the last one on my list here of 5 crazy things said to me when I was new here in Germany, is just about general smack talk on Eastern Germans by Western Germans. Now, I mean, what did I know as an American moving to Germany, specifically to Bavaria? What did I know about East Germans, West Germans? I mean, I knew there was a wall at some point and that it came down. But when I was new here, it became pretty clear to me that there was a sort of a dynamic. In the beginning, I thought it was maybe a little similar to like what we have in Pennsylvania. Like, we'll talk smack on New Jersey. We'll make fun of New Jersey. I'm sure New Jersey made fun of Pennsylvania. Pretty much every other state around us makes fun of New Jersey. But it's all like just generally, I don't know, some silly poking fun kind of a thing that generally kids do. But after being here for so many years and having jobs that had me travel around inside of Germany, this stuff annoys me anymore. You see, when I was doing different sales jobs, specifically in Germany, in different corners, well, I mean, generally, I can be a pretty friendly person, and I was lucky enough to make friends in different corners of this country. And when I think of the East, personally, like when I think of the East, I think about music, creative people, and some of the coolest chicks I ever met in Germany. You see, I've got a couple friends from East Berlin, some of the coolest chicks I've ever met in my life, and I try to see them whenever I'm up there. It's been way too long. But I met them while I was working, and I was living in the South, and they were so different than the females I was around living in that small village in south of Germany. Like, these chicks I met up from Berlin were just more down to earth. I could drink a beer with them and act stupid at 2 in the morning in the streets of Berlin. And I could just be me. They didn't feel fake. And when I think of like Dresden, in Dresden I was lucky enough to meet quite a few like musician artist types. There's a great music culture over there. I know the East gets slandered a lot because, well, politics, you know? There may or may not be like a neo-Nazi problem over there. But that's not generally what I'm talking about here. Like when I was new here, I remember my husband telling me at the time, this is like within only like a few weeks of moving to Germany. He was going to take me to show me where the old border was. There was apparently a part of it not far from where we were living. And he was telling me a story about when he was younger, how him and his friends, they would get on their motorbikes when the wall first came down. Their motorbikes, they had these fancy Ducati, Moto Guzzi, very fancy motorcycles. But he was like boasting to me how when the wall came down, him and his buddies would get on their fancy motorbikes and go drive them on purpose across the border to do a couple of laps around the villages, you know, maybe make some noise. Show off. I say boast because as he's telling me this, he then throws in the candid little fun fact there at the end that, you know, they couldn't get jeans and bananas at one point. And he would tell me that when they would go and drive through these villages, oh, they will all stop and look. And all I'm hearing, when he's telling me this, I remember thinking, you arrogant jerk. This guy's boasting about driving to an area, a poorer town, people that have had less, and showing off that he has more. How arrogant! And just every once in a while, something like this will pop up. Like, I live in the western part of Germany, and every once in a while, it's not so uncommon, somebody will make a generalized statement about an Eastern German person. And quite often I feel like the people that do this, the Western Germans that do this is just my opinion. You look like a spoiled little brat. Because I know there's some great people living on the east side of Germany that had nothing to do with what happened historically where they were born in, where they didn't choose to be born in. I just think it's really arrogant when somebody that has much feels the need to shove that in the face of somebody that has little or less. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, those are the 5 crazy things said to me when I was new here in Germany. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, make sure you click like and let me know. If you're new, feel free to subscribe and ring the bell so you get notifications of when I upload again. I try to do this every week. What did we learn today? Well, we learned that when you're a foreigner, locals can be very helpful in learning stuff. But if those locals start generalizing about people's race or religion or how they look, get the hell away from those locals. Because they're freaking crazy. Who am I to talk about crazy, really? I really appreciate you all. That's it, folks. Till we meet again, make sure you take care of yourself.